I'm going to get to the nitty gritty here in a bit. So first thing I want to do is I want to share this. It's actually just the channel, believe it or not. Now I'm going to full screen this. Why put significance on? It's the thumbnail that says, for example, XLM, the United States Department of Treasury chooses Stellar. Now I remember there was one particular guy who said, oh, they all say that. Okay. He didn't clearly watch the video and he just dismissed the thumbnail immediately. So this is kind of like a part 2 of this. The United States Department of Treasury chooses Stellar for financial inclusion. Now, I want to give a shout out, and I don't even know if he's here tonight. He might be busy. He might be at the 50-yard line, going to the 30, whatever you want to call it, right? It's Mike Cornwell, Elon Muff. Why is that? Because last night, for you guys that were tuned in, yesterday's broadcast, towards the end, we had a bonus coverage. Now, we're going to continue a little bit of that bonus coverage and why you want to pay attention to this, some of this stuff. So, again, that was part 1. To sense, this is part 2. And again, look at this for a second. So I went ahead and I actually watched this whole thing. And some of it was good. Some of it was like, I don't know. But the point is what is mentioned here. Okay. So this was posted yesterday. So over on Stellar.org, the official one, you see this particular lady. It says, reflecting on a decade with Defiant News. Now, if you wonder who they are unbiased and supposedly independent DeFi, I guess you could say, newsletter. Okay, they claim they have no biasness, whatever you want to call it, right? 108,000 followers. But the point is, Stellar Development Foundation's vice president of product, who's Tomer Weller. Some of you guys have given him criticism about saying too much and hey, it is what it is, okay? But the point was, he discussed this whole thing of the evolution of Stellar with this particular lady and highlighting the whole standout use cases. Now, we understand standout use cases, do we not? But the key thing to understand is what was mentioned at this particular time of this particular interview, which was an hour and 5 minutes, give or take, okay? I have fast forwarded to this particular part. Please pay attention to this part, whether you're a Stellar person or not. You want to hear this. If Stellar's your thing, please smash the like. You're definitely going to appreciate what you hear tonight. Thanks for being here. I appreciate everybody. Let's get this broadcast out to a broader base. Here we go. All right.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So that's kind of the payments cash use case, and then you were mentioning Franklin Templeton issuing a tokenized fund, I think, on Stellar.
Yeah, so Franklin Templeton has Benji. Benji is kind of like their biggest on-chain tokenized fund. It's on Stellar, and I think it crossed $400 million just last week. And we also have Wisdom Tree that are active on the network and issuing more and more funds online, on-chain. So there's definitely kind of like a big move there. And I can tell you we are at the SDF getting a lot of incoming questions from like some of these big financial institutions around how to do that. So I definitely think that real world assets are like a big use case in blockchain. And it is one that a lot of companies feel free to do on Stellar. And this, the fact that we have this track record with regulated financial institutions, the fact that assets on the Stellar network were really built with compliance in mind, and the fact that the Stellar consensus protocol has a kind of like a trust model that sometimes it's easier for like a financial institution to wrap their head around, because they know that at the end of the day, kind of like trust is the main currency, rather than them having to actually dabble in like cryptocurrency stake and stuff like that.
Okay, so 2 follow-up questions on that. The first, like, if you can get into more detail on what those funds are. Is it like U.S. Treasury yield fund, or what exactly are they?
Yeah, it's like a money market. Yeah, it's like a USD denominated money market. Yeah.
Both the Franklin Templeton one and the Wisdom Tree ones?
The Wisdom Tree ones, I'm actually not up to speed. I think so, but I can give you an answer later.
This Benki fund is $400 million. Just like very just fact-checking question with DeFi Llama. I'm seeing that TVL on Stellar it shows up as like 30 million. Is that something wrong with how like DeFi Llama is accounting for TVL or?
Yeah, so DeFi Llama is just counting the canonical DEX of Stellar. If you go to a real world assets tracker, for example, rwa.ixyz, and enter their platform, you'll be able to see in the dashboard that Stellar accounts for more than 50% of the total real world asset count.
Oh, wow. Oh, so yeah. Stellar has 50% of all real world assets on chain?
More than that, yeah. Stellar is the biggest player in the space, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, and then the second question I had on what you mentioned, why institutions want to tokenize funds on Stellar. So some of the things you mentioned, kind of this permissioned aspect, the clawbacks, all of that. So those, are probably great features for institutions, but could somebody, make the argument that is making Stellar less censorship resistant? Like, can an institution or a government or somebody come in and say, you have this, capabilities of making someone, revoking somebody's access to the chain or clawing back funds? So yeah, does that kind of go against censorship resistance?
Yeah, so I think that there's a spectrum here, and Stellar allows the asset issuer to decide where on the spectrum they're at. So if you're on Stellar as an issuer, you can issue an asset that has like no restriction. You can kind of like turn off all of these like flags so that it's not allow listable, it's not deny listable, it's just kind of like an open asset, and you can guarantee to whoever holds this asset that no admin action can actually be done on their balance. So you can have it on that end of the spectrum. If you and then we have all these different flags that an asset issuer can choose around their asset. So they can choose to have an asset that is kind of like deny listable, which means that the issuer can actually revoke your trust line or your balance. And by the way, this is actually very common in stablecoins across the ecosystem. Even USDC on Ethereum can be your balance can be revoked by Center or by Circle, right? So at the end of the day, it's part of the game if you're like a regulated entity. And on the kind of like the most extreme end of the spectrum is the heavily regulated assets. So these are things like equities, for example, or securities. And in order for their issuer to be compliant, they must provide some facilities like clawback. But again, it's up to the issuer to decide, and it's visible to the user whether my balance is actually clawbackable or not. And in other ecosystems, we do see there are some, EIPs around kind of like more advanced regulated assets in Ethereum that at the end of the day, this is what they implement. So in Stellar, it's kind of like, you get what you see. It's there from the ground up. It's up to the issuer to make the decision on like what these flags are, and it's up to the user to make the decision in like what am I willing to hold.
Okay. There's way more to that interview, obviously, right? But like I put into the live chat comments, over 50%? Are you kidding me? That deserves a complete what? Yeah, okay, right? Like on the freaking real. So is there more in regards to this? Oh yeah, you better believe there's more. So here is an example, because some of you guys ask like, I want examples of utility in motion. I want examples of, the whole thing of like, are we at a pre-utility run? I don't have the answers for that. I present material, take it as you want, let it answer that question for itself. Again, this research was provided last night at the tail end, but applies to even the likes of Stellar. Now, why is that? let's take you over to that. And again, shout out to Mike Cornwell once again, because this is huge, absolutely huge. It gives us a taste of what's to come. We have been talking about this for a while, and a lot of people have been the naysayers and saying it's never going to happen. Right, a utility run has never happened in the history of crypto. But do we have examples of it? Well, yeah, let's go ahead and give you an example of things to come with actual examples of things that just happened. So look at this. Let's go ahead and full screen this. And yes, let's take out the brand just for a second. I want to pull this up a little bit more. Last night, at the end of the show, we talked about this. Signum tokenizes Matter Labs treasury reserves in $6.9 billion worth of, US dollars worth of Fidelity MMF. How long ago was that posted? March 19th. So it's pretty recent, right? Now you may be wondering, you may be saying to yourself, well, this is not stellar, but this is a great example of things to come, and it's all going to make sense here in a bit. So let's go ahead and full screen this again. Let's read some of this. Signum tokenizes Matter Labs treasury reserves, like we mentioned, and that was an announcement. Here's the highlights of some of this. Signum, a global digital asset banking group, tokenizing USD $50 million worth of Matter Labs treasury reserves onto the ZK Sync blockchain. The Signum issued security tokens act as on-chain representations of units from Fidelity Internationals. Now, as we know, Fidelity ranks about roughly third, give or take, when it comes to the big institutional money. I think it's BlackRock, then if I'm not mistaken, possibly Vanguard. I don't know the exact ranking, but last I saw, Fidelity ranks third. So it says, quote unquote, Fidelity, 6.9 billion institutional liquidity fund, which is called an ILF, to generate a secure and transparent proof of reserves. Think about this, guys. Why am I pointing some of this stuff out? The reason why I'm pointing some of this stuff out is for you guys to understand that these are examples of finally getting some of this stuff on chain. We've been talking about this for probably a good 2 years. When do you see the start or the hint or the inception of big money being put on chain? Now, some people were hoping and praying that ETFs would have brought this all in, right? But that's from a retail perspective. What about directly putting it on chain from the institutions? I think this is one of the best examples of that. So, Sideline Reporter, Michael Cornwell, you knocked it out of the park. Let's get back into the material. So, look what it also mentions here. Signum generates on-chain representation by issuing security tokens that act as secure and transparent proof of reserves for Matter Labs treasury reserves. Represents first step in Matter Labs' long-term strategy to move its treasury reserves on-chain with trusted institutional custodians. Aha. Institutional custodians. Gee, I wonder who some of those could be. By tokenizing traditional securities, again, back to what Larry Fink was literally saying in his outline for over the course of how many months now, guys? Come on. By tokenizing traditional securities, Signum is strengthening the crypto-TradeFi bridge. Who is one of the top of the mountain when it comes to the crypto-TradeFi bridge? On and off ramps, right, guys? Stellar. Laying the foundation for a fully tokenized ecosystem, Matter Labs is a software development engineering and cryptography company focused on creating scaling solutions for Ethereum and contributing to the improvement of ZK rollups. We've been talking about some of these things, right? ZK EVM, there's a whole bunch of them, right? Polygon has some of this stuff, right? ZK Sync is a layer 2 blockchain protocol designed to scale the performance of Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency, yada, yada, right? But the point is, treasury reserves on-chain with institutional custodians like Signum. Now, why get into the rest of this? Well, again, we'll pause on some of this here in a bit. But the point is, understanding this is the first project, right? You guys want a taste of a possible utility run. There's got to be somebody that's going to start it all. So the first project to leverage the capabilities of Signum's multi-chain tokenization solution with what? Traditional securities. Now, let's pause there because Larry Fink literally mentioned that, guys. And he said, for example, we're going to do it with Ethereum. What about the other ones that are competing with the likes of Ethereum? we were making such a big deal about the whole thing of what? Sorbonne and so on. And I got, of course, a news update in that regard too, but it's all worth pointing out. Again, there's just a little bit more, and we'll get into some of my keynotes why it's all important. So getting more into this, and I know I keep taking that thing off, but I want you to be able to see the material on the screen. With the tokenization of the investment in Fidelity's money market fund, Signum further strengthens crypto TradeFi connections and lays the foundations for a fully tokenized ecosystem. Aha. Remember how I said, guys, flat out, we need something to lay down that foundation. They started it. What will be next? That is the bottom line. What will be next? And of course, there's a lot of other research here. I will read at least one of them. This is from Jörg Remmeley, country head Switzerland at Fidelity International, says, "We welcome the partnership with Signum Bank that expands access for professional and institutional investors and strengthens the trusted bridge between the emerging digital asset economy and traditional finance." The point of that is recognizing everything that was outlined by Larry Fink, by all these other institutions saying, this is what they're going to do. Boom. This is one of the best examples of what they just did. Now, in conclusion, before we kick into the next thing, why point out the whole thing in regards to Signum? Hear me out on this. Have an open mind. So what I want to mention is this. There was a lot that was to get into there, right? And this is significant, guys, in so many ways, but to give you the juicy nitty-gritty of the whole matter, it's significant for these reasons. And basically, you know me, I do typically 3 to 4 reasons. So number one, transparency and trust. Just like back to the whole example of Gilbert Verdi and Quant, creating not only the internet of value, but the internet of trust. Hear me out. So Matter Labs putting their treasury reserves on chain with a trusted custodian like Signum increases, of course, as we know, transparency. That's a win. Anyone can verify the existence and securities of those reserves through the blockchain. That's the whole point of having a public immutable ledger. This can be a major selling point for any company dealing, of course, with cryptocurrency. Again, back to Stellar and other particular examples, right? But this part, building bridges, and as we know, when it comes to Stellar, one of the best when it comes to building bridges. So this collaboration between Signum, a crypto bank, and Fidelity, a traditional financial institution, as we know, strengthens the connection between the whole concept of the worlds of like cryptocurrency, traditional finance. And in my opinion, this is going to lead to this other thing, which is the wider adoption of crypto and blockchain tech in itself. When we talk about mass adoption, and especially having the big money of institutions coming in, this is probably one of the best examples you're going to find out there. How about this? Have you guys noticed, like I mentioned yesterday, real world assets and anything tied into is doing extremely well. Really, oh my God. Mike Cornwell got into that 8 cents. I got into about roughly 9.8 cents, and it's gone up to over $3. Now I get the whole thing about the supply and, you know, they could dump on all that. Hey, we're not complaining yet, and we'll pay attention to that and watch it like a hawk. But it's not just them. It's a lot of other ones. Clearpool doing it as well. Propy doing it as well. And how about seeing something going on with Stellar? Now, some people point out Stellar hasn't done a moonshot yet, but watch how they strategically put things together. Sorbonne is going to open up everything, in my opinion, and I've been very consistent about that from the start, and that's why I put so much coverage and focus on Sorbonne. Hear me out. So, tokenization of real-world assets, right? This is the first instance, guys, don't get it twisted, of traditional securities, for example, Fidelity's money market fund, being tokenized, and with what? A ZK sync? So is this why so many of the different ones like, you know, Polygon and so on have these roll-ups and so on? No, not necessarily, but it definitely helps that they took the liberty to upgrade their systems for these particular ZK EVM sidechains and so on, right? That was pointed out. So this could pave the way for more real-world assets to be tokenized, making them more accessible and liquid. Now, enough about all that talk about all these other ones, right? We're here for Stellar, are we not? Listen to this. Smash that like for some Stellar XLM. What does this mean for Stellar? That's why you're here. Stellar, as we know, another blockchain looking to tokenize real-world assets, right? Absolutely, along with a whole slew of other things, right? Sorbonne, smart contracts, you name it. But to tokenize real-world assets through partnerships like the one with Franklin Templeton, back to what Tomer Weller was being interviewed about, the news is positive for Stellar because it shows there's growing interest in tokenized real-world assets. Yeah, no kidding. That's why we're in so many different ones, why we're so diversified into Propi, Relio, Clearpool, Stellar, Quant, you name it. Heck, I'll even throw XRP into the mix, right? But here's how it can all benefit Stellar. And hear me out, if you missed out all the research that was provided tonight, 3 other key things. Listen to it. Validation of the approach. What approach? Well, the success of Matter Labs in itself validates, yes, you heard me right, validates Stellar's approach of using blockchain tech for what, guys? Tokenization. So some of the guys are like, you're overthinking it. Don't overthink it. What about the potential for collaboration? Now, Stellar does do a lot of collaborations, even though some people think that they don't, they do. What's an example? Well, this opens up the floodgates. You better believe it, because Stellar might learn from Signum's multi-chain tokenization solution and even choose to collaborate with them and other similar institutions to expand their what? Their offerings. That makes sense. And I think we've already had examples of that. It won't just be Stellar. It'll be some of the other ones that we cover all the time too, especially the ones tied into the ISOs. Listen to this third point I want to get into. Okay? Increased interest in tokenization. You ever wonder why they put so much emphasis on tokenization? So the more successful these projects are, and you better believe that sounds bullish as all hell, the more interest will be in tokenization in general, potentially leading to more adoption of what we want of Stellar, and especially when it comes to the Lumens, the XLM. It's not just the whole concept of USDC. Overall, the reason why we point this out is Matter Labs' move is a positive sign for the future of blockchain tech. Even though you think this is more focused on, for example, Matter Labs, understand this is a win for all of us, right? It's tokenization, and it's the potential to pave the way forward for wider adoptions, and especially for people like us that are part of the Stellar Army. Huge, massive win in my book. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Decent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, you know, we'll fix point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? You know, I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your, you know, significant other, you could get 2 of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this. And I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Decent wallet is not having to do the red tape of, you know, jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And, you know, saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out, though, if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that, you know, I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one I use.